I'm going to keep this video very short and simple, and what I'm going to do today is the final part 3 of the Givaudan Accords. So if you saw the previous 2 videos, you'll know that I was doing a series where I looked at the booklet from Givaudan and took some of their accords using their raw materials, and I put them together and evaluated them and let you guys know what I thought they smelled like and whether I thought they were worth making or not. So in this video, I've got the final 5 of those accords. If you didn't watch the other 12 that I've already done, then I'll put a link in the description of this video to the other videos where I cover that. But in this video, we're going to go through those 5. And also at the end of the video, I'm going to leave screenshots of all of the 3 pages of accords that they gave. And that's because some of you guys have been asking for this booklet and I can't remember where I found the link online. But what I'll do is I'll screenshot those 3 pages with the accords on, and that's because there's a few extra ones which I couldn't make because I didn't have the raw materials. So that means that if you guys have the raw materials to make those ones, then you can also go make those ones yourself. Right, so let's get into it. The first one is methyl, laitone, and Kephalis. So we covered both of these 2 raw materials last time. Basically, if you didn't see that, Kephalis is a nice kind of ambery, woody molecule, which I think is quite bright and fresh. Whereas methyl laitone is more of a coconutty, woody molecule, which leans maybe a little bit in a sandalwood direction. Now, Givaudan say that this combination is meant to smell like a vibrant incense note enriched by a creamy texture and mysterious minty volutes. So to me, what this smells like is a nice kind of woody smell. And it's a little bit like walking into an old kind of maybe slightly antique furniture shop that's got a little bit of incense. It's kind of like that incensed wood smell. And it does a good job of that. It's just kind of got a mixture of things. It's kind of got a bit of brightness from the Kephalis, and then the methyl laitone provides kind of a little bit of a sandalwood vibe, and sandalwood's often used for incense. And then it also adds it's got quite a few things going on there. It's like a little bit more unusual than your usual woody smell. So I actually really like this accord, and I think it's a really nice one to use. Now, as for the minty effects, it definitely doesn't smell like mint in the way of, say, peppermint or like a menthol smell or something like that. But it does very slightly remind me of mintonat, which is a minty molecule, but it's kind of like a very woody minty molecule. And it does remind me just a little bit of that. So maybe that's the kind of thing that they're referring to. Either way, I think it's a nice accord. And whether you wanted to explore the mint direction of it or not, I think it's one that's pretty good. So next we have Ambrofix Flakes, aka Givaudan's version of Ambroxan, plus Safraleine. And Safraleine is a kind of saffron smelling molecule. Now Safraleine is a little bit like Safranal, which is a really truly saffron smelling molecule. And Safraleine definitely has a saffron note to it. Though I find that Safraleine also has a few other side notes. So to me there's a little bit of a phenolic smell. But nonetheless, it's still a saffron note. So together, these 2, they smell quite safraleine actually. So even though the ratio is 1:9 of the Safraleine to the Ambrofix, because Ambrofix is a lot more of a kind of diffusive, but on its own, it's a bit of a subtle smell, whereas Safraleine is very potent and strong. That still, I would say, comes through. Now this is meant to be a blooming Damascone effect with red fruity jam and soft leathery facets. And if you don't know what Damascone is, well, there's a certain class of molecules that smell quite sweet, jammy, a little bit juicy, appley, fruity. They're often found in things like rose. You can also use them in things like apple accords. And they're also used in a lot of perfumes just to give a kind of nice, juicy, radiant effect. But when you put these together, I wouldn't say they really give me particularly a Damascone vibe, maybe the tiniest little bit. It's mostly the kind of safraleine smell. And it does have a little bit of a leathery note to it, I guess. I think that's because saffron naturally does have a bit of a leathery note as part of that smell. But I think, safraleine just has a leathery note anyway, right? So I wouldn't say it's anything too crazy. I do think it smells a little bit mineral to me, a bit like some kind of like saffron-infused gemstone or something. But I would say overall the accord isn't particularly, like anything amazing. I'd say it just smells like safraleine that's been modified a little bit, and realistically, because Ambrofix is in a lot of perfumes anyway, there's a good chance that, you'll just have this accord naturally occurring. Anyway, it's okay, it's just, I wouldn't particularly say it's worth trying if you don't already have the raw materials. Next time we have Safraleine again, but this time with Peonile, which is that kind of peony or rose kind of note. And this one is meant to be an oriental rosy fruity note with soft Damascone and saffron inflections. I quite like this one actually. And the reason is that to me, this kind of rosy, fruity note in the Peonile really envelops the Safraleine, and it takes the edge off. Is what on its own is quite a strong, distinctive, piercing, saffrony leather smell, and it wraps it up and it kind of softens it out. It makes it a lot sweeter and more honeyed, and it's kind of, I think that this accord is actually just playing off the tendency in perfumery for people to put a saffron note with a rose note, because that's a really common combination you find in like oud perfumes and things like that. People often use like saffron, oud, rose, that kind of thing in a complex and call it like an oud perfume or some kind of incense rose or something like that. And I think that maybe this is Givaudan's version of doing that, using their raw materials, in the sense that Peonile is a rosy smelling aroma chemical, and it kind of does the job that a rose would do in that accord complex. So you can put that with the Safraleine and you can get a similar kind of effect, and it works quite nicely. So I'd say if you are trying to make one of those kind of classic, like, sweet rose oud perfumes, then you could definitely go and put some Peonile and Safraleine alongside, say, the rose and the oud, and I think that would actually come out really nicely. So I think this accord is pretty good. Next then we have Spirogalbanone and Florhydral. So this one is meant to be, they say, enter a flower shop, floral and green notes of cut flower stalks blooming in the air. I gotta say, to my nose, this does smell absolutely nothing like a flower shop does at all, really. It just smells like Spirogalbanone and Florhydral. So I don't know, this one, in my opinion, is just not, I don't see the point of it, basically. So if you don't already know, Florhydral is kind of a bit of a lily note, so a bit of a fresh floral note, but I would actually say it's more fatty and less fresh. It's a lot more thick than other floral notes, so it's a little bit weird, a little bit unusual. It's quite powerful as well. Whereas Spirogalbanone is your classic kind of, let's say it's that sharp, aggressive pineapple note, something very much like allyl amyl glycolate. So it's very intense, and when you use it, you usually only use it in just a trace amount in a perfume. So, probably part of the reason that this accord smells weird to me is because having the Spirogalbanone and the Florhydral, both of which you usually want to use in trace amounts, having those both very strong is a bit of an assault on the nose. So maybe instead of at 10%, I probably should have made this at 1% or 0.1%, because that's way more representative of how you would have actually used that in a perfume. But regardless, I don't think it particularly, at least, at this concentration, I wouldn't say it makes an accord effect. And the main thing is it doesn't really smell like the the flower shop thing that they're talking about. To my nose, the aroma chemical that really smells like a flower shop is isocyclocitral, or another one would be phenylacetaldehyde. To my nose, that's the smell of cut stems. So if you wanted to make that effect, then that's what I would personally recommend. And finally, we have Stemone and again the Spirogalbanone. So this one is meant to be the perfect balance to design a new vetiver acetate effect, which I also find pretty strange, given that we've got two pretty green smelling molecules, i.e. Spirogalbanone being like a greeny pineapple note, and Stemone just being a green, I would say a bit of a ivy blackcurrant side of green notes. So I find it weird, even conceptually, that could be like vetiver acetate, which is a woody note. But anyway, let's go smell it. So yeah, to me this, again, kind of smells like a mixture of the Spirogalbanone and the Stemone. I don't really understand where the idea that it would smell like vetiver acetate would come from. I mean, I'm trying, but I don't know. To me, it doesn't really smell like that at all. To me, what this one is a bit closer to is if you went into kind of the foliage in like the deep undergrowth in a forest, maybe on a summer's day, and you might get some kind of thick, pungent, leafy smells that could end up smelling a bit like this. That's what I would say. Again, I wouldn't say this accord is particularly amazing, but at least compared to the other one, the Spirogalbanone, I feel like I can see a little bit more use for this kind of thing. But yeah, overall, I wouldn't say it's particularly one that's worth trying. So that's my review of the accords. So the two that I liked in this video were the Methyl laitone with the Kephalis, and the Peonile and the Safraleine. I actually both think those two were like genuinely worthwhile accords, that you might be able to use somewhere. Whereas the other three, I thought like, kind of just, I don't really see the point of them, basically. But anyway, that's why I do the video, so I can let you know my thoughts on it. You may not think the same as me. And saying that, you may not think the same as me. I, of course, invite you to go make all of these things up for yourself. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave on screen the 3 pages from the booklet. So if you want to go and make up any of these accords at home, you can actually go and look at them and make them up yourself. And I'm also showing here the ones that I didn't do, because I did all of the accords from these 3 pages that I had the raw materials for. However, I didn't have all of these raw materials. So there's a chance that you might have some of my missing raw materials and be able to do some of the accords that I couldn't do. So if you want to go and make those, feel free to go ahead and let me know down in the comments what you thought they smelled like. Anyway, that's pretty much it from me for today. Like I said, just a short little video covering the final accords, at least the ones I could do. And with that, good luck with your perfumery, guys, and I'll see you very soon with another video all about perfumery.